All right, guys, welcome to the show. We're continuing on with players that I love, very early players that I love for Fantasy Football 2023. In this video, I'm going to give you guys 3 wide receivers I love for 2023. And you guys know I don't really get attached to wide receivers, especially in the early rounds of drafts, because I tend to get those sleepers every single year. That's what I provide in the 16-round draft solution. Now, there's a ton of great receivers. Jefferson, obviously, Cooper Kupp bouncing back, Adams. But I don't tend to spend early draft picks on those guys. Now, the list that I've got here, 2 of them are going to be high draft picks, but I love them because I think that the consistency and the upside is going to be there. You don't have to still spend that Justin Jefferson price necessarily for these guys. We're going to talk about them. And then I've got another guy here who is a bit of a sleeper, kind of a mid-range wide receiver that I think has a ton of upside this year, and I'll tell you why. So 3 wide receivers I absolutely love for this fantasy football season. A super early list. Now go back and watch the running backs I love and the quarterbacks I love. Just did an episode on them. And make sure you guys are subscribed to this channel because we go year round. I'm going to keep pumping out that content for you. Now you can also pre-order the 16-round draft solution, which is what it says, a solution. I give you all the optimal players to draft in each round, sleepers, breakouts, everything you need to crush your league. You'll be light years ahead of the competition. Last year, everybody said to you, Rashad Penny over Walker. If you got 60 rounds, you knew better. Tyler Algier, nobody talked about him. He was like 60th amongst running backs in the rankings. You knew about him. You stashed him, right? And so many more sleepers and breakouts and upside players. Saquon Barkley was outside the top 10 all consensus lists last year. I told you to make sure you secure him as early as you can, late first, early second. Saquon crushed it, right? I told you to avoid Jonathan Taylor, and on and on and on and on. All this stuff I foresee before the season happens. You'll be light years out of the competition. Grab 16 rounds. You can pre-order it now. There's a link here below, all right? Subscribe, thumbs up, and drop a comment below. Let me know which wide receiver you love. Let's rip through these guys real quick. It's a short, sweet episode. Again, I'm going to be rolling out little bits and pieces of content here in the offseason as we're heading towards the Super Bowl. I got an exciting one. I think the Eagles end up winning this one. But again, let me know what you guys think on the Super Bowl predictions as well. So let's talk about it. The first wide receiver that I absolutely love going in this season, and you're going to say, well, thanks, Captain Obvious. I know he's pretty high on the consensus, the Kinship's rankings already. He's sitting like second or third. But listen, I still love him. I like Jamar Chase. I still think there's a ton of ceiling left with this guy. Now, the guy only played 12 games last year, 134 targets, 87 receptions, over 1,000 yards receiving, 1,046 with 9 touchdowns, okay? This is very important to know that he didn't play a full season. He still finished top 11 in PPR, guys. 11th in PPR amongst wide receivers. This is impressive. The talent is there. Then I looked at the postseason or the playoffs for him, okay? He played 3 games, right? And he was competing with Higgins, but there really is no competition. But when you compare the targets, 28 targets to 21 in those 3 games, 220 yards for Chase. Higgins had 148, 2 touchdowns for Chase. Higgins had 1. So 28 targets, guys, 20 receptions compared to 21 and 13 with Higgins. So some people are saying, well, Higgins is going to be a thorn. And I get it. Yes, but every good wide receiver has a complementary. Now, sometimes there's situations where it's just always that wide receiver, right? Just they keep force feeding him. I think Jamar Chase is going to get way more volume next year. If the Bengals want to keep advancing into the playoffs, they got to use their best player. Obviously, he was banged up, didn't get as many targets as he should have on the season, but he is the number one, the clear-cut number one. Higgins is good, which is he's going to draw some double coverage here and there, which is fine. That's what we want from Higgins, right? He's good enough to take away, maybe the free safety once in a while, open some things up for Chase. But I think this is going to be a big monster year for Chase, predicated he stays healthy. I love him. Now, the big question is, am I going to be drafting him? I always go robust RB. I'm probably going to be missing out on Jamar Chase this year, but I think he has a great season if you want to go the wide receiver early route, which I don't really recommend. But if you do, Jamar Chase should have a great year. Second guy here, I love him. And there's a lot of reasons I love him, is Stephon Diggs. If I'm going early at wide receiver, I'm looking at him. When you look at the target count, 154 to 93 compared to the wide receiver 2 on the year, which was Gabriel Davis, Diggs was the guy, clear cut. Like I said, 154 targets, knock on wood, very healthy, 1,429 yards, 108 receptions, and 11 touchdowns. Josh Allen and him continue to gain that rapport. This is like your This is like your safety blanket when you look at wide receiver in the early rounds. Again, barring any type of injury, knock on wood, he's typically a healthy player. The offense knows how to run itself with the Buffalo Bills. They're a good team. This is a guy that's going to finish top 5, and that's where he finished last year. He's a guy that stays consistent. He's a guy that's got amazing work ethic. He's a winner. He likes to win. The Bills like to win. They got a very potent, solid offense that's going to continue to thrive. Again, Josh Allen and Diggs, amazing connection. I love Stephon Diggs. What can I tell you? Again, this is not really a surprise when you look at, wide receivers I love, but I got to talk about early round wide receivers that I love because I like that consistency. I can't say I don't love them because at a wide receiver position, which is very volatile, from time to time, right? Because there's a lot of quarterback changes and there's a bit of a committee at wide receiver. And you can get depth at wide receiver. You get wide receiver ones after the 4th, 5th round, just fine. But when you look at those guys that are secure, solid, young, hungry, upside, consistent, Diggs and Chase kind of jumped out at me for this year, all right? Now, again, we're going to be doing a ton of sleepers, so make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you guys click the subscribe button. This is just a little sampling. It's like an appetizer as we're going into the season, all right? Now, this third name, not as obvious, okay? A guy I don't really talk about too much. I had him as a sleeper last year, but this year I'm expecting big things out of him. I'll tell you who it is and why. Before I do, guys, make sure you guys do get the 16-round draft session and pre-order it here below. And, of course, smash thumbs up and drop a comment below. Which wide receiver do you love this year? All right? Third guy here, sitting currently 14th on the Consensus rankings. Finished 21st last year in fantasy points, so obviously the Consensus are seeing the upside that I'm probably seeing right here, but I may get him, but I'm going to get him for good value. The guy I'm talking about is Garrett Wilson, okay? 147 targets last year, 83 receptions, 1,103 yards, 4 touchdowns, 21 in fantasy points in PPR. The guy played, pretty much a full season, started 12 games. So he didn't really come out of the gate as a starter getting that workload. Now, here's the thing. The talent is there. They drafted him as the 10th pick overall in the first round. The Jets did. There's rumor that Aaron Rodgers could be on the Jets. The time is recorded. We don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But there is talk of that, and that would be a huge boost for this offense with Breece Hall coming back, Aaron Rodgers, then you got Garrett Wilson as the 1. I'm going to have to see what they do in the draft. Elijah Moore getting a lot of disrespect. He's going to be moved. He's moving. He doesn't like it there, obviously. Elijah Moore, not going to be there, most likely, right? He's not going to be there. So when you look at Aaron Rodgers possibly coming in, or a solid quarterback for that matter, you got to consider Garrett Wilson here. I mean, the guy did well with who? Zach Wilson, who played 9 games, Mike White, who played 4, and Joe Flacco. And literally, if you watch the games with Flacco, it was literally White, throw the ball away. Like, it was just like, sorry, it was Wilson, not Mike White. I'm thinking Mike White here. Joe Flacco to Garrett Wilson. It was like literally Wilson. It was like constantly, right? So whoever is going to be at quarterback is going to go to the best receiver. And Garrett Wilson looked dynamic. You know what I'm saying? So good numbers with a bunch of crappy quarterbacks throwing the ball. I'm not really sold on Zach Wilson being the guy. Maybe he can be. I'm not sure. But obviously they want to address his quarterback situation. There is some good quarterbacks floating around. Now, if Derek Carr ends up on the Jets for some reason, he could actually make Garrett Wilson pretty fantasy relevant. Not enough to take him to the play. Like, I don't think Carr is good enough as a real quarterback, but for a fantasy quarterback, he does feed the wide receiver pretty well. So, again, Garrett Wilson's a guy I love. Tons of upside, youth, talent, and as long as he gets a consistent quarterback, we're looking at a top 5, top 10 receiver with ease for this year and a big-time sleeper at the wide receiver position. I love him. I love the opportunity, but I can't wait to see which quarterback comes in. Is it Rodgers? Is it someone else? Something to really monitor. What are they going to do at that quarterback position? Because we got ourselves a good team. They've done some good work on the defense, defense side of the ball. They got in Breece Hall, one of the best running backs on paper, talent-wise. They got the talent of Garrett Wilson. They just need a good quarterback at this point. The Jets need to address that. They will, I think, this season, the offseason. Going to be exciting. Garrett Wilson. All right. So drop a comment below. Let me know who you love. Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, Garrett Wilson. There's a ton of sleepers at wide receiver this year. Again, I'm going to give you guys all that in the 16-round draft, so you should make sure you guys grab it now. We'll talk soon, guys. I appreciate you rolling out the content in the offseason as we roll into 2023 fantasy football. It'll be here before we know it. We'll talk soon, guys. I'm out.